Welcome to the Strange Bedfellows podcast. We will be joined today by close friend Tim Baltz as he shares his experience as a patient inside a Scientology Rehab Center. Enjoy.
Okay, Flunk, you twitched your mouth. Start.
All over the world, people are being put through this right now by Scientology trainers.
Start.
Stand up! Sit down in that chair!
Flunk, you failed to acknowledge. Okay, start.
Stand up! Thank you! Sit down in that chair! Thank you! Stand up! Thank you! Sit down in that chair!
So, Robert, what does this do for you? What does this technique actually achieve?
Well, the purpose of this is to give you the ability to direct your intention to get something accomplished. Now, you must understand in Scientology, however, there's two sides of this. While you are learning to get something done, so I say, Paul, go over there. And I'm just able to direct you, because there's a lot of people that just say, Paul, could you sort of go over here for a second? Gives you that commanding presence,
So
all right?
it's like a military training kind of drill.
Exactly.
Very much so.
Now, the other thing that's important to know, however, is in Scientology, you must learn to be commanded. This is important because at the same time, while you are learning intention without reservation, you must learn control. So I must be able to receive your control. So when you tell me to go over there, I'm willing. So you are learning to control people and you're learning to be controlled at the same time. And that's how the mind control begins to take place.
Objectives, and then they start doing these TRs, which stand for training routines. And we would, and one of them was you sit in a chair, you can't move, and at first you close your eyes, and you hold that for, I forgot, it's only like 5-10 minutes, not too long, but you got to stay there, still with your eyes closed, almost like meditation. And then you do one where you stare into each other's eyes. And, that's kind of hard for someone to do. And ironically enough, they're having to do it with this girl that I like. So that was kind of fun, staring into the eyes. But so that was fun, and they kind of made it fun. It was fun with her too, just because I kind of liked her. But then so I was in this withdrawal unit for probably another 5 days. I was in a detox for about 4. I was in withdrawal for about 5. And then I went to the general population. And this is the withdrawal unit and the detox unit was pretty nice. Not 5 stars, but they were pretty nice. But then then we go to like a prison almost. It was very run down, the general population. Not much upkeep, black molds. So it was like prison, like a minimum.
Oh shit!
And we came over, and and they have their courtyard where everyone goes out and smokes cigarettes, because you were allowed to smoke cigarettes. Scientologists have no problem with cigarettes. Literally everyone there smokes, even with the counselor. But anyway, so and then they took me to the classroom, because we have like class, literally for 8 hours of the day, and that's where they start teaching the theology, Scientology. You get this book, and there's 8 books, and for it to get book 1, you start on book 1, and it's called by L. Ron Hubbard. It's right there on the cover. Book 1, if I remember correctly, is pretty much just about kind of the intro things, making sure you understand everything. Pretty simple. And then book 2 is a sauna program, and then so with the sauna program, it's interesting. You start off with 100 milligrams of niacin that they give you.
And what is that? What is niacin?
Niacin is like a B vitamin. It supposedly helps with detox.
Okay.
But anyway, so they start you on 100, but then, and usually they take you up to 5,000 milligrams of niacin, which I think is ridiculous. And they will, and like you progress each day, but they hold you back that day if you turn really red. According to L. Ron Hubbard, that's like a sign of the toxins coming out. And, so it's really just building up a tolerance to niacin, but they say it's a detox in your body and all this. And there's all this, whenever you have a question, right, they wouldn't answer it. They just give you the L. Ron Hubbard book.
Oh, man.
Show you where it is. He's like, he said it, so it must be true. And I was kind of
right.
But anyway, so I was there, and on day 45, I was like, I agreed to 45 days, no longer. I came home. But the minute I came home, I started getting high again. So literally like 3 weeks later, I go back to the place. And this time I'm signed up to a full 5-6 month program, So I'm in it for the long haul. And I go there, and their whole detox unit got shut down by the state government because they had a lot of overdoses because the nurses were fucking up. Wow. So that was an interesting, just in the time I was gone. So I went straight to the withdrawal unit and no medication. I came off. I was only doing it for like 3 weeks. I was coming off shit pretty hard. I was throwing up and shit, but I didn't have any medicine this time. Unfortunately, the girl I liked from before got kicked out, so that kind of sucked, So I was in there. I was in the withdrawal for probably 4 or 5 days, and I go to the general population again, and they start me right off in the first. I have to do this whole literally for the first week, I just have to wash dishes and do grunt work, and they call that NEST, NEST. That's kind of a punishment. They say it's kind of a punishment, but
right.
It's for leaving. They're like, yeah, you left. You're not.
This is crazy.
You got to do. So I was literally doing hard labor, washing dishes, stuff like that. I was just whatever. So then after the first week, I go into the sauna and I start over at 100 milligrams. I do it, and it literally takes me a month, and I'm turning red as shit. I'm trying to hide the redness so I can get through it. And some of the people's supervisors in there were just fucking idiots, man.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, you have your lives in their hand. You got people sitting in the sauna for 5 hours a day, and you have someone with no medical supervision. But anyway, so I did that, and after a month, then you go into general population again, and the classrooms again. After the sauna thing, you go back to the classrooms, and then with book 3, so book 2 is fun. Then you do book 3. And that's called Learning How to Learn. It's called something like that. And literally all you do is learn how to use a dictionary. It's the stupidest shit you've ever heard of. But in Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard really stresses this, that if you don't understand a word, even if you think you understand a word, say you're reading anything, if you don't understand a word, the exact definition of any word, even if you think you know the context, you have to go look that word up. And that's what this book 3 was all about. So that didn't take long. But then book 4 is called Objectives. And do you remember I told you about those light objectives we did earlier during the whole withdrawal?
Right.
Yeah.
We had to do that, but hardcore. Literally for 8 hours a day, we were touching objects, touching ourselves. And then you had a partner, and I actually became good friends with my partner. He was a really cool guy, and we went through objectives together. And we would write down any supposedly cognitions we have doing these things 8 hours a day. And let me tell you, doing these tasks for that long drove everyone nearly insane. It was just walking around a room, touching objects or touching yourself. And there's 8 objectives, and they change slightly. But you're really supposed to record these cognitions, and it goes to a case manager who then, passes or fails you. And I was in that thing for 2 months. It was 2 to 3. Yeah, it was rough. I lost my sanity. I felt many times.
I believe it.
The funny thing is, so when I'm almost done with this book 4, and book 4 is in 2 parts, these objectives, I noticed a lot of people are leaving, and I started to ask why, and it's their insurance are asking them to leave because there's suspicion of fraud going on at the place. And keep in mind, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. It is like a minimum security prison. Well, I think Baltz, it was fucking rough. Like, the quality was real shabby. And then I started asking, like, why is all these people that I went through the program with leaving? And it's part of their insurance. So I talked to my mom, I called her. And by the way, you had 7 minutes of phone time a day, and all your conversations were monitored. Like, someone would listen to you talk, whoever you talk to. So I knew I was taking a risk, criticizing the program. I kind of told her what was going on, and they were listening to me, But I was like, at this point, I got to get the truth out. So of course after that, they're like, "Oh, come talk to us, what's going on?" I was like, "No, I'm good right now. I just have to tell my mom some things, We'll make our decision." And I kind of played it off. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to leave or anything." But she did her research and saw that this particular facility had a lot of problems, and insurance was kind of telling her that, this place is suspicious with insurance fraud. So they found a place in Florida by the same company, by Narconon. But it's kind of like McDonald's, like you franchise the license,
Sure.
So it was run by different people, and I go there, and I find out that the programs really should only take people 3 months. So at the place in Michigan, they were artificially making it longer. And we could have unlimited phone time there. It was a lot more liberal, I guess, and a lot nicer, than fucking Florida. But then, so I finished out my program there. It was pretty good. I met a lot of cool people. After book 4, the rest were pretty easy. A lot of moral, it starts having these moral teachings though, and literally there's this line that says, the world is black and white. If you see the world in gray, you're sick. Which I thought was an interesting perspective.
Right.
So it was kind of trashing moral relativism, very much so. And then pretty much the last book is just like the 10 Commandments, pretty much like thou shalt not murder. It's really interesting. It's actually called the Way to Happiness, Common Sense Guide to Better Living. But anyway, so then you read that, and then I finished the program in Florida, and then I decided to work there.
No way. What'd you do?
And when I decided to work there, yeah, it actually, you don't really need many requirements. As I said, I dropped out of college years before, so I didn't have a degree, and it was a solid job. And my parents were like, "No, we're not going to really support you, so you better work there." And so I didn't really have any options. I took a week off. I came back home, Then I went back to Florida, and everything started off fine, And then I started like wanting to, go out in the world and meet with girls, and, start partying again. And, of course, the social circle is very closed, like you hang out with these people and no one else,
Yeah.
And then I had this training, and the training took like 3 months, and I actually got through most of the training. And that's when the Scientology started really becoming evident. L. Ron Hubbard, again, was being idolized in every, passage we read. My supervisor was a hardcore Scientologist. And it was funny, I'm an atheist, and we got in a whole argument about spirituality, and, Scientologists believe in hardcore spirituality. They believe it's alien souls, Satans, that are attached to, your being. That's what influences your thought. And I was like, no, it's your mind, and like it's a chemical reaction in your mind. And he really was like offended by that.
Right.
But I was like, whatever, that's just my beliefs. But he was a nice guy.
You didn't realize how much of a requirement that was to move forward.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah. It was very clear. And, then we started hearing talks about, literally had to write down everything we ever did bad in our life on a piece of paper. And they keep that shit.
Yeah, more of that surveillance stuff.
Yeah.
That you mentioned.
And, it's funny, and it's interesting about the surveillance thing. In one of the books, I think it was book 7, it was talking about how, privacy is really not right. Privacy is really not a right. Privacy is really for the wicked to hide themselves. And if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't have to worry about anything. And I thought that was an interesting, obviously I disagree with it, but I thought that was an interesting, this moral absolutism, this whole, privacy is bad. It's a very, I think it does play to the whole overall religious hierarchy of Scientology. These were the basic books too. These are like the tenets of Scientology, pretty much, or L. Ron Hubbard's belief system, his philosophy, and it was very interesting how they disregard privacy. And the other thing too is they're very against welfare. They feel that welfare weakens an individual, and they believe, governments addict people to. It's a very conservative argument,
So, Cormac, we can officially categorize Scientology as right wing.
Sure.
Good. It's almost a right wing thought process, and they don't talk about race much, at least not in the modern versions. But I definitely could see L. Ron Hubbard, and this is the funny thing too. My supervisor, who was a hardcore old Scientologist, super conservative. We were talking about evil people, we were talking about what evil means, and he pulled up the picture of Hillary Clinton, which I kind of agree with him on. Actually. It was just funny.
But why? Yeah. But why do you agree? That's the thing. Yeah.
And he hated gays.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
He almost took the Christian argument when it came to that. He's like, if homosexuals having sex without procreation, they're just doing it for pleasure, and that's not healthy.
I thought that also.
And then so this whole Narconon program was, you could do your research on it. It definitely is run by a nonprofit organization that is connected to Scientology, called HAIL, I believe. And
what's it called?
They say they don't press the actual religion, which they don't. They don't say you have to be a Scientologist, but they push every single tenet of Scientology. It's very interesting how they do it.
Well, like you said before, there's a kind of a skills and salesmanship to it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like all the when you call every time, everyone on the phone is a pro. And it's funny that at the place in Michigan, which was a lot worse than the place in Florida, a lot of those people got caught for embezzlement. So I thought that was later on, but I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought they wouldn't do
and
anything.
Actually, I told you about those objectives. I was my partner I was doing it about. He's actually my roommate there for a little bit too. We have roommates, kind of like college in that aspect, but more institutionalized. But he was there for marijuana, and I asked him, "How did you get here for marijuana, like regular old weed?" And the person on the phone convinced his parents that he was doing heroin. Making that up. Like, they were very good at what they did.
Wow.
Yeah. So, they were very intense, and, the place in Michigan was a lot more shady than the place in Florida, but they all had the same, philosophy and teachings, and I just thought it was interesting, especially the aspects of the whole, first of all, these TRs just sitting in the chair and not being able to move, and the whole thing, too, where this, scientific empirical evidence doesn't really matter. What really matters is what L. Ron Hubbard said.
Exactly.
And that was very apparent.
It's so interesting to me.
And I ended up leaving. I finished the training, but literally the day after, I was starting to get high again. I was like, I was dealing with a lot of issues that I brought up to them, and they would give me some, Scientology-based cure or a remedy, and I was dealing with some serious shit, so it just didn't work out. But I think a lot of rehab is kind of bullshit in general. I think really, you can go someplace and get clean in an institution, but it's really about how you're going to live outside of the.
Yeah, it doesn't really simulate the experience you'll face.
So, I really have no regret for going to this place as opposed to another place, but I think they're all kind of bullshit. But I'm definitely, it was definitely interesting to experience.
I feel like the only difference is that, like the issues that might have been similar in modern, psychiatry is like, or I don't know if that's the right word, but that's probably just a little more well known. But what you're experiencing is very much like you're a bit of a mole. You're able to tell people about like kind of the inner workings of sort of not to like jump to conclusions, but like a cult, basically.
Yeah. A well-organized cult, and
it's very informative.
They have a lot of money. And I do think, you're speaking of psychologists and psychiatrists, and this is especially apparent in the training that I went through when I was a quote-unquote trainee/intern. But they are very much against psychiatry and medication, which I think they have some valid points to. I definitely think, it's things are overprescribed to keep the market moving. You know what I mean, in this country.
Definitely.
And I think they have a lot of validity to what they say about that, but their remedy is not necessarily the right one either.
Well, it's the easiest thing in the world to take a problem that's just an epidemic and it's obvious, and then to promote yourself after identifying it.
Of course, yeah. It's been done before, and it's going to be done in the future. But I just thought that was transpired. But well, I gotta unfortunately continue packing up my things. But I definitely want to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, definitely.
Questions, please let me know.
This is good. This gives us
joining us.
This gives us like an idea of like
quick overview of everything.
What questions we could ask and stuff like that.
Gave you some insight.
No, that was amazing.
There we go.
What was going on there?
I was trying to use. I eventually gave up using my actual microphone, but I had to click something to make it whatever, and nobody could hear me. But
Did you hear of his story?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to. He was very good. He it almost seemed like he had at least in his mind, he had everything prepared. And
well, he's probably thought about it. He's probably thought about it an awful lot.
Yeah, exactly. He was needing to basically get moving. He's literally moving.
Yeah.
So weren't able to really just sit with that information that he gave on Scientology and his experience.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that he essentially hit every nail on the head from what I was getting out of the Louis Theroux, take on Scientology, for instance.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. It's weird too. Like even when you watch those documentaries and you know how weird and terrible it is, but you still expect it to be kind of whimsical almost. But when you hear it from the inside, it's so fucked up.
And it just seemed like a mini version of everything. Like I could see in miniature all of the worst abuses that were covered in the Louis Theroux. And I listened to his Joe Rogan thing on with Scientology too. So that he talked even more about it. And some of the things that they would say is like, it's this. We're talking about with the really egregious stuff. Like this is just the top levels where you're part of a secret society, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's really what I got out of it. Really, you get this echo, this trickle down of the whole process, and you do see that, at the earliest level.
What I was trying to ask before I realized he couldn't hear me was, and you guys touched on the fact that they have this aversion to psychiatry, but it seems like it seems weird that they would run a rehab center because it seems like there'd be a pretty decent cross section of people who'd be doing a rehab that had also been to psychiatric treatment.
Yeah, and it even covers that. Like I think, Louis Theroux does. He talks about how like it's weird too. They have like similar things. Like they'll the kind of like lie detector thing that they'll do, and they're staring into each other's eyes and all that.
Yeah,
it's almost like they're so similar that they're threatened by the other thing.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
And in fact, you'll also get from Freud some of those some of that thing about how I think it's called transference, but it's where a patient starts to imprint like extremely like godlike qualities onto their psychologist or their therapist. I mean, they'll start to depend on them almost the way that you would like a shaman type of.
Yeah.
So even in in that area, but yeah, the L. Ron Hubbard as the ultimate authority. Just look at what he wrote. If he said it, then it's right.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The homophobia was there.
Yeah.
Like literally every single thing, and the anti-welfare thing, like just everything. Yeah.
So weird.
So wow, I think we can confirm that we have the stuff that we saw. The documentary material that's out there seems pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Just squaring it away with his experience.
So weird. I knew this dude in my squad when I was and he spent a lot of time on one of those for-profit juvenile detention centers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so weird. It sounded like Oliver Twist. Like, almost exactly the same thing. They never give you enough food, and kids would, like, act out and, like, break into the kitchen just to get, like, cereal and shit. Like,
oh my
so weird.
gosh.
Out of months of investigation into suspicious deaths at a drug treatment center. It's run by Narconon. If you've seen our previous reporting, then you know Narconon has strong ties to the Church of Scientology.
And what were they getting into? Catton and Tenorio say, a crash course in Scientology. Patients are called students, and they study a series of 8 books based on the writings of Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard.
They can confront their own problems and solve their own problems, and so bring themselves up by their own bootstraps.
Narconon promotes itself as a non-medical rehabilitation program. Its methods include 5 hours a day in a sauna for 30 straight days and mega doses of the vitamin niacin, all part of a larger system of life skills training that Narconon says has helped tens of thousands lead drug-free lives.